Okay, welcome back. I told you that I was going to be here, and I'm here. Today's the first week. But I have to read this introductory paragraph that we have here out of my book, my workbook. So, your life, your workbook, a 52-week manual for your year of action. This workbook isn't just a workbook, it's a fight plan. More than a companion to the book Cut the BS, it's a tool with a single purpose to get you off your butt for 52 straight weeks, to challenge every excuse, and to force you to face the truth. You cannot read this and expect to change, or in this case, watch these videos and not do the work and then expect to change. This is not a book you just flip through. This is a manual for a year of massive, consistent action. Each week, you'll be given the brutal truth and a clear challenge. Your job isn't to think about it, it's to do it. You must own your choices. You must face the scoreboard, and you must get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Grab a pen and a journal, or paper, sticky pads, tattoo gun, whatever you want. Be honest with yourself. This isn't a race, it's a marathon. Get ready to fight for the life you want, 1 week at a time. All right, let's get to it. So, the first week, as you can see here, week 1, the excuse detox, the harsh truth. For the next 7 days, you are... I told you before that I'm not a reader, an actor, I slur my words and everything else, so bear with me, please. The harsh truth. For the next 7 days, you are a person who does not make excuses, not for yourself, not for others. Excuses are a disease of the mind, and they will kill your potential. They are a sign that you are prioritizing comfort over growth and fear over action. This week, we are ripping them out by the root. You will not say, I don't have time, I'm too tired, I'll start tomorrow. You will only speak the truth. The weekly challenge: practice radical honesty with yourself and others. Every time you feel an excuse forming, stop it. Replace it with the raw, uncomfortable truth about your choices. Okay, the daily actions. And the format that I chose for this is the week title, the harsh truth, the weekly challenge, and then the daily actions, Monday through Sunday, and then the final pitch or the final punch. So the daily actions: Monday, identify your top 3 reoccurring excuses. Write them down in your journal or whatever you have, whatever you like. Tuesday, when faced with a task you don't want to do, immediately take one tiny action toward it without thinking. Wednesday, when a friend asks you to do something you don't want to do, give a truthful no instead of a vague excuse. Thursday, for every excuse you catch yourself making, perform one small, unexcused act of discipline. For instance, 10 push-ups, drink a glass of water, put your phone away for 15 minutes. Friday, review your week. Did you make fewer excuses? Were the actions aligned with your goals? And that's a very important part, of course. Saturday, give yourself permission to rest without making it an excuse for it. Sunday, plan your next week with 0 excuses in mind. And then the final punch. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret is forever. Which pain are you willing to accept? Okay, my friends, that's it for that. But I did want to mention one excuse that cost me a few years when I was in the Coast Guard. So if you watched any of my other stories or read my book, Cut the BS, which is available on Amazon, the first 10 years of my Coast Guard career, I was an enlisted member. So I was a radioman, and then they changed rates, changed to telecommunications specialist, so on and so forth. But for those first 10 years, I was an enlisted person, and I'd heard about officer candidate school, and then there was a a piece about it where there was a reserve commission and then a temporary commission. And then I kind of read into it. I knew that I wanted to become an officer because, of course, they had more potential. They were higher paid. They had additional duties, so on and so forth. And I knew that I wanted to excel. So I looked into officer candidate school, and I looked into the other Coast Guard programs that I could become an officer. And then the only one that applied, because I didn't have a degree at the time, the only one that applied to me was officer candidate school. And I looked into it a little bit, like I said, and then I kind of pushed it off because I didn't fully understand it. And I think, and I told myself many times that I was comfortable being just an E5. I knew that back in, when I was active duty back in the day, when I was enlisted, a lot of folks, well, there were some folks that were enlisted and then lower ranks. I even know of this one person, and I don't know his circumstances, but he retired as an E4, which was kind of crazy to me. And I don't know, and I'm not judging anybody. I don't judge. I think anybody should do whatever they want, right? I'm just here to provide my input on that. But being a lower rank like that and retiring, which was kind of crazy to me. But so I stayed in E5, which was at that sweet point, I think, that allowed me to have additional duties above an E3 and an E4, so on and so forth. But it didn't take me up to an E6, which was more of a supervisory level, which I told myself at the time that I didn't want to do because I was comfortable being an E5. And I think I stayed there for a few years until I think I realized that I didn't want that life. And I knew that I really wanted to become an officer, so I applied. So I forced myself to actually look into it more, learn more about it, and realize that this is something that I could do and should do, and now is the time to do it. I applied to officer candidate school 3 times, actually. No, I'm not a whiz kid. I never had so in the Coast Guard, we had evaluations, and they were like from 1, which is the lowest, all the way to a 7. And some of the super stellar butt kissy people would get like all 7s all the time, which was kind of ridiculous. I was always very quiet, very reserved. I stayed to myself. I did my thing the best I could. I didn't suck up to a bunch of people. And I always had that face where, I mean, you can see my face, right? I mean, if I'm not talking to you and I'm not smiling, people think I'm a jerk, but I don't think I am. I think I'm kind of nice. But so long story short is, it took me a while. I kind of lied to myself, and I think it was an excuse to stay comfortable instead of pushing myself through the pain of doing the work, because you had to fill out a packet, which was like I don't remember, 7-part packet where you had to get the college transcripts, you had to do the work, you had to get the evaluations, you had to, and then once your packet was approved by your commanding officer, then you had to sit for officer candidate school OCS boards in front of like 3 officers. So it was just like an interview board where you had to go in front of them. They would look at your package, ask you a bunch of questions, try to rake you over the coals, and so on and so forth. So that's why I kind of screwed myself over being an E5 for so long. But it worked out in the end, because I ended up being an enlisted person for 10 years and then transitioning through officer candidate school to a commissioned officer. And I did that for 10 years. So that kind of rounded out my 20-year career. So anyway, that's my first story. Thank you for joining us, or joining me. I'm glad that you're here. I hope that you join us continually, maybe like and subscribe so you'll be notified when I do these videos, and it's going to be every week. I'm going to be here. Are you going to be here? I will. I'll see you then. Bye.